Again, everyone, I want to spend some time again talking about worldviews, foundations, presuppositions. I've gotten quite a few comments on my foundations video. Some nice comments, some very rude and pointless, but nevertheless it's brought a lot of stir from people, and I just want to get into a little bit about those foundations again and worldviews. What folks need to understand, what you need to come to realization with, folks, whether you are a creationist, an evolutionist, a Christian, a non-Christian, whatever, is that you may not understand that you have a worldview, but you do. You need to actually recognize that you do have a presupposed set of beliefs. You have a lot of presuppositions, and it's the presuppositions that you have that shape what you think how the world works. A good example of one that's not religious but is equally, well, definitely not equally, it's not important, but it is very hotly discussed, sit on TV all the time. Take UFOs, for example. You meet somebody, if you are someone who believes in UFOs, believes in the, that the SETI experiment's a good thing, and the search for extraterrestrial intelligence may in fact find that, we could very well find life out there, then you believe in the possibility of UFOs. You put that out there, and many people do. Okay? So if a neighbor of yours said they saw a flying object, and they maybe even showed you some video, some evidence, things like that, they would show you that and go, look, here it is, and I saw this, and it had to be a UFO. If you believe in that thing, your presupposition, your belief that UFOs are possible, would lead you to look at that evidence with a certain set of glasses. Good thing I wear glasses, I already got my props. You have glasses that you see the world through, and based on your presuppositions about UFOs, your worldview regarding UFOs would then confirm to you that, hey, UFOs are possible, and this looks like evidence for UFOs. Now, however, they show it to another friend who believes it's a bunch of hooey, there's no such thing as UFOs, there's no evidence that points to it. They look at that same evidence with their presuppositional glasses, their worldview glasses, and look at the UFOs and go, what that evidence shows me? It shows me of lights, it shows me evidence of a hoax, it shows me I saw some kid, supposed to be in a balloon on Fox News floating in a thing, that wasn't a UFO, or, oh, those are weather balloons, oh, those are government things. You hear all kinds of people, and there are people on both sides of that issue, and because of their presuppositions, because of the worldview, because of the glasses through which they look at the world, they've already determined what the evidence is going to say to them, when the evidence is exactly the same. And folks, what I want you to understand about evolution and creation, what you need to come to the understanding is so many evolutionists, so many atheists holler at me and cuss and swear and get angry. I've seen it on all kinds of, you creationists don't have a lick of proof, you don't have any evidence. There's absolutely no evidence for the Bible. There's no evidence for God. There's no evidence for any other stuff you're talking about. When that's a completely baseless claim. Evidence is things that we can handle, evidence is things we can see, and evidence is available here in the present. It doesn't have a date tag on it. It doesn't speak for itself. That's a fallacy that's promoted. It's a logical fallacy when people say those type of things. It's great in poetry. It has no basis in observational science. Folks, evidence does not speak for itself. It's simply here in the present. Our presuppositions lead us to make conclusions about that evidence before we do any research on it. I could show you numerous times, and maybe I will take some videos to show how the science actually does far more point to the rationality of creation and intelligent design, far more so than it does blind random chance in evolution. And I know that, but my presuppositions lead me to start there, that the Bible is true. The Bible starts out, like I said before, in the beginning, God. And right there, obviously, atheists are going to have problems with the Bible from the first sentence out. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I believe that. I have a foundation for my belief of the Bible. It's not irrational. It's quite rational. It's a very logically put together book. It's a history book. It handles subjects like no other book in history does. It's incomparable to anything else. I don't have to defend the Bible. It's defended itself. No one's ever been able to destroy it. It is my foundation, and I stand firm on it without any fear that it's right. I know that it's right. It is proven, and in fact, I would dare say that if it were not right, we could know nothing of this universe, because it sets up all the foundations for the things we need to know about the universe. It's non-arbitrary, it is not inconsistent, and it is truly meets the preconditions for intelligibility. And folks, no other worldview does. Everything else really comes down to being illogical. But here's the key. You don't have to believe that. It's true whether you believe it or not. But the matter is, folks, you just need to understand that you don't enter anything neutrally. Notice this. when someone comes to me as a Christian, you have to look at the evidence neutrally. There is nobody looking at evidence neutrally. We've already have presuppositions of what the evidence says. We have presuppositions that we have a universe that's either billions of years old or a few thousand years old. You can't come to neutral ground. It's foolish to think you can. So don't try to take that fallacy. There is not a third point. You see, if your viewpoint, you believe it's a positive viewpoint. You believe that evolution is correct. I believe creation is correct. You say we need to look at this without any clouding of the evidence. This just needs to be purely neutral. Well, you can't have that, because purely neutral would mean you would have to leave your belief in evolution. I would have to leave my belief in creation and find some middle ground, some middle viewpoint that supports neither. But for us to walk on to that neutral ground would be to say that we believe our presupposition is untrue, and therefore we would both have to be saying the ground that we stand on is therefore true, and would make us both wrong. And the fact of the matter is, creation and evolution, there is no other viewpoint. It either was created, intelligently designed by some God. I obviously believe it's the God of the Bible, and he's the only one that really makes a good solid case for it. Or you believe it came about by chance, random processes. It came about by some evolutionary process, Big Bang, Darwinian evolution, or some subset of that, and it happened without supernatural influence. So you can't have a third view. There is none. And if you would admit to go to that third view, then both of us would be saying that our presuppositional statements, our worldviews, are faulty, because we can't use that third worldview that is completely different based on different evidence, if there was any, which there isn't. That would be then the thing we'd have to say is true itself. We can't have the two positives. We're going to stand on what we believe. Our presuppositions, our beliefs about the universe are going to lead us to make decisions on those presuppositions, on that worldview. The evolutionist looks at the world and sees evidence, and they say that evidence points to millions of years, billions of years, long processes, long random chance processes going over time, and the works of nature. The biblical creationist, the Christian, looks at it and says, this is the handiwork of God, a supernatural work, and it's explained throughout Scripture, and it's valid, it's solid, and there really is no argument against it. You can't prove there is no God, just like I can't prove, like giving scientific evidence, origins prove God exists. However, anybody will look at the evidence for Scripture, the evidence for creation. The rational mind looks at it and says it makes far more sense. It's really quite simple, just to make a real quick statement. The most overwhelming evidence for a designer in the universe is a design. You would not look at the camera that I'm looking at. You would not look at the computer you're using. You would not look at the paintings on the wall. You would not look at the computer code written to create all these programs that we use and say, that was done by random chance process with no intelligent design in it. Obviously, the greatest evidence for the designer is the design that you are observing. We can't even touch DNA. We can't even touch the smallest form of life and create it with all our incredible technology and knowledge. However, we will say that the most incredible thing, life, that we can't even begin to totally fathom, came about by chance random processes, and yet we take for granted that computers, cars, and everything of lesser value and of lesser complexity was put together by intelligent design. You just have to admit, as an evolutionist, that your worldview is based on non-visible, non-viewable evidences. Your worldview overall, for chance random process, for no intelligent design, no design behind all that we see, is irrational, because everything that we see speaks of a design. Or if you can find something, a building, a painting, or an electronic device or something that you can look at and say, see, this device, this thing was created, this thing came into being without any plan, without any design, without any intelligence behind it. Please show me the evidence of that. And you can't, because it's not out there. All you can do is throw evidence out and try to say, well, this thing in nature looks like see, this didn't have any design. But what you're saying, again, you're making the presupposition. You're letting your worldview say there was no design behind that. The evidence does not speak for itself, folks. The evidence is neutral. It is us who are not neutral. It is us who have presuppositions who come into these situations and put what we believe onto the evidence. I believe you look at the evidence, it makes sense for creation. You believe you look at the evidence, it makes sense for evolution. What we have to get back to is our presupposition logical? Does it meet the AIP test? Is it arbitrary? Is it inconsistent? And does it meet the preconditions for intelligibility? If it does not, it's pointless and it's wrong. Folks, that's all I encourage you to do. At least be honest. You view your evidence through the glasses that say something what you already believe. You don't look at them neutrally. That's all I want. People to admit they're not neutral, because you're not. Anyway, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.